was topping out at temperatures that could boil water. So,
wow.
So there's more fans there than a northeast seaside shop at the moment.
What you got fans? What you got fans to cool down your PC?
Yeah, fans to cool down the PC, fans to cool down me because it's
What are you doing?
chuffing hot.
What are you doing mining Bitcoin?
Nearly spat water all over it. Just this outhouse, mate, is chuffing hot. Which every time I say it's hot, I owe my wife $1, so I'm at $4 already.
Okay.
So stop helping her.
Okay. Well, we've got a great. This is just the best possible start for a season, and for season content that you could get. How are we going after that? Friday night, and then obviously subsequently Saturday with Sam Doherty's news, which just burst the balloon a little bit. But it's been everything. It's classic Carlton. Highs, lows, emotions. We're alive. We are alive. We're feeling it all.
Usually we say that when it's bad, Terry. Well, we're alive. That's the win. Good, man. Good. It's good. So a lot of people asking about the ratings. We have had a formulae change. A massive formulae change. So there is a few new stats we're looking at that we're calling hauntings, right? So this is based on what you guys sent me last year, things you wanted to look for and things you were looking out for on the game. So one of the stats is we have taken the AFL's goal shot system of the percentage chance of kicking a goal. So we've added now 5 new stats per line, but for defenders specifically, we're looking at spoils or intercept marks or marks contested taken in anything with a higher ratio of 65% and more gets them a bonus point. So it gets them a bonus point. It doesn't give them a full mark, but it actually counts as 2 contested marks or 2 intercept marks. So that's one of the changes. We'll talk you through them as we go, but there is a few amendments because we're trying to find. I spoke to a member of the coaching department earlier this year, and he said when it was the brand, Vossi has added this today, but what Carlton's brand is pressure, second efforts, and contest. So we've tried to adapt the ratings to look for the things that we don't get marks for.
I see. Wow, this has come a long way.
Can I just say that's a bastard as well? Me and my mate came up with that stat, and that requires a lot of fucking manual labor, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, for those at home watching who are not familiar with the ratings, this has come a long way in less than 12 months. But essentially what we're trying to achieve with the ratings is to, Pommy, correct me if I'm wrong, rank each player based on an algorithm that you've created. But it's more so in the context of each player's position relative to every other player in the competition in that position. So by the end of the season, we can see where they stack up in the league as opposed to just our thoughts and feelings and emotions. Because when it gets too good, everyone gets a 10. When it gets too bad, everyone gets a 0. So we want to find a nice balance of equilibrium and bring some evidence and ground our statements in evidence. That's really what we're trying to do here.
As the cop on Ace Ventura said, can't convict him without evidence. And that's what we have. We have evidence. It's what we're all about. We're an evidence-based exercise. No more excitable, miserable pom. We just have numbers. All
right. I almost forgot how we do this. So we're going to go line by line. Is the heat map the first one we show, or is the rating the first one we show?
I've numerically ordered them, Terry. There's another. People don't see this.
Oh, yes.
Hey, but we're going line by line, as Michael Voss named them. And
Oh my God.
you can't see it, but I've made Terry's life easier. There's no names. There's just numbers.
Guys, I might as well just shut up and get this going. This is unbelievable what you're about to see. We've got heat maps for every single player and relevant statistics for every single player pursuant to their role. Let's just begin. Let me change our screen how we show. We show like this. We want that there. And then we want you and I to be sitting. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
I think we're the last one. I think we're the last one. If you click the dot down there, I'm pretty sure.
There we go, boys.
Look at that. Pom's measuring.
All right, starting in the back pocket, Brody Kemp. So we're going to go through this. We'll talk to you in the chat, give you 30 seconds or so to guess the rating. This will be a little bit more fluid as the season goes on, but it's essentially our first practice match, but we're getting into it. Pom, let's talk about Brody Kemp.
Okay, so you'll notice a new addition this year.
Yep.
The asterisks. That means they led Carlton in that statistic.
Ah.
See?
Smart.
I do listen to my DMs.
Wow, that's brilliant. Okay. Wow.
Like, sometimes I hate your chat. You send me these ideas and I'm like, that's a fucking lot of work. But I do enact them. So what we've got here, let's talk about Brody Kemp. Brody Kemp, he had a very difficult job against a very mobile forward line. And a bit like a lot of the players, first quarter to fourth quarter, could have been playing a different sport. But ultimately, very interesting, this one, 100% one-on-one win. So didn't lose a one-on-one battle at all. And a very interesting one, right? He had them in one of his one-on-one genuinely were in low percentage plays. However, as we predicted in the preview with Leckdog, Brisbane did look to isolate him, but Brody was very clever. Carlton were very clever as well. They really did track the kicker to make the kick difficult, so it was in a low percentage area, which Brody Kemp is the master of. So solid defense, but 8 intercept possessions. Wow. And, big thing with him, and we need to give him a shout out, play into his strengths. He stopped marking in the first quarter and just went to spoiling and bringing it to ground, which is ultimately Brody Kemp's strength. So really, really good game from Broads.
Yeah. And I think we should probably screenshot this and just put it in our saved files for 2025 preseason in the event that Brody Kemp doesn't look as good as what he actually is in the preseason. 2 weeks ago, it was Kemp can't play. And I thought he showed some really positive signs. He's just one for me that you just got to persist with him. It's going to be worth it. He's got the attributes. He's still very early in his career, but good signs in this game. Definitely.
I don't want to go mental, right? But very Wheatering traits this game from him. So if you go back and watch the first quarter, he was looking to engage early and then try and go one-on-one marking. When you watch Wheatering play well, if it doesn't work, he changes his plan. Kemp changed his plan, and Kemp had Danaher, and he went to spoil. And then when Hewett came, he still went to spoil. He learned from his mistakes and was like, right, I'm not playing this game with you. I'm going to play this game. And he let Danaher, it was very smart, let Danaher and Hewett lead him, and then he came late. So he was always in the defensive position if the ball hit the deck. So that's very smart from Brody. And you know what? Not many defenders have that ability. So fair play, Brods. Fair play.
Fair play. So I'll pull up.
Good to see Tyler Shaw in chat as well. Many apologies that I blocked you in the live when that Collingwood idiot, you just happened to comment in between 800 of his flag pies posts. So apologies, Tyler. I love you.
Welcome back, Tyler. I'm going to get Brody's rating up. So, I mean, we're a little bit slow here. We'll get more efficient as we go on. But can you just remind us, Pom, 0 to 10, what's average? What are we looking for with ratings? What's the magic number? What's the pass mark?
6 is a low end pass. 6.5 is where we're expecting that same. We're right at AFL level, output level for the best 40 in the comp.
All right.
Percent.
So while we talk about each player with the heat map, that's your opportunity in the chat to have your guesses in. I know you love doing that. We tried to take that away at one point. That was not flying down with you guys. You guys let us know about that. So we'll try and get that going. Anyway, without any further ado, Brody Kemp, 7. Big tick. Big tick first up. We love to see it. Okay.
Look at these team of the year
Can we just
cards.
go back to this? Have a look at this.
Oof.
No, that's brilliant. That's fantastic.
You should never enjoy your own work, but I'm enjoying
you should. No, you should enjoy your own work. All right, that's Brody. Next up is Lewis Young. Oh, can we get some Lewis Young love? I think he was one of the few players who went into this game with the level of scrutiny that came his way. Oh my God, it was almost like people were looking for a new plowman, and he's in danger of becoming that if we don't nip it in the bud. But the concerns were there, and I thought he nullified the concerns. I probably saw one, maybe two things that he did where I was like, okay, got to be careful with that. But otherwise, I thought he played to his strengths.
You know what? Sometimes you've just got to accept what you are. And Lewis Young accepts what he is. He ain't Wiedering, and he ain't Liam Jones. But there is a gentleman out there that won a flag and was pretty much probably the most important pillar in a team that won a flag, called Harrison Petty, who has very similar traits to this man. He's just a big oaf. He's just a brute. And you know what? Fair play to him. Went at 70% by foot, which for those watching the watch along, we said it's a deceptive stat because it only has to hit a pack if you're a defender. But look at them meters gained, 431, and a lot of them were true disposals as well of him hitting targets through the corridor when it changed. Carlton changed the system, and you actually saw Zach Williams playing deeper up the ground with Jordan Boyd to give him a target so they could kick for him. Once that happened, brilliant. And was one of the few marking strengths in that back line. Really held his own and was the deepest player. And you know what? Fair play to him, because he had some big moments in that second and that third when they started to come back as well. Held his job up.
I liked one of his early plays in the game. He outmarked, I think it might have been Danaher, played on straight away, got the ball surging forward. I think it might have led to our first goal. It just set the tone for his mentality for the game. I just think he did his job. I think once Wiedering comes back, that conversation will obviously take place. Does he go out for Wiedering? But at the end of the day, he had to play, and he did play. He lined up, and we need him again this week. He's got a big task. So well done to Lewis Young, 6.5, and we move on.
Bossy Boy makes a great point as well. He has to make a headache for Marchbank.
Yep. True. That's what he's there to do. Saad had the tough job. Didn't get to play as freely as what we would like him to. Had one of the toughest jobs in small defender territory in the game, playing on Charlie Cameron. How do we look at Saadi's game, guys?
Defensively, was strong. I think it was interesting that Voss generally, when he plays a negator in the back half of the ground, when it's been Saad, he's looked to attack with him. This week, it was a very mature performance, and he was kind of there for Kemp and Young to not be so ostentatious with the ball, but used the ball pretty well. You can see the massive decrease in what we know from him, his meters gained. Usually this guy's at the top of the field, and it shows you how Carlton adapted their game. Lewis Young is the leading meters gained player. Saad's well down, but was very, very solid. Took a very important intercept mark as well towards the end of the game as well, when the game was on the line.
Yeah. I liked there was a passage of play where he won a 50-meter penalty, but just prior to that, the body work on Charlie Cameron just to stay in front. A lot of defenders panic in that situation. He's just such an experienced head. And I liked his game. Also, he starts, correct me if I'm wrong, he starts Ramadan tomorrow. I think tomorrow is when it all begins. So he's about to go on a journey. And if there's one thing I know about Saad, it's that when he's
inbound.
Yeah, well, when he's during Ramadan, he becomes better. It gives him an edge. So look out, Richmond Thursday night. He got a 6 for his game.
Which is harsh, but you've got to remember the output's not there. He's there to defend and attack, but defense, 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. All right. Next up is McGovern, mate. McGovern. He's got it. He's got the buzz cut to a point where I'm getting so carried away. But during the game, I was saying, wow, he looks like Jeremy. He played like Jeremy on Friday night.
Took the pina colada at times.
He did.
Like honestly, what a player. Look at his heat map as well. This is a real noticeable change from last year. People keep asking in the preseason, Pom, what's changed? And I was like, quite a bit. One of them is Voss is really been bold with his pockets. Both Boyd and McGovern almost playing as inverted wingers, a little bit like Arsenal with Ben White. These guys are fucking really up the ground. And it caught Carlton out in the first quarter because people were going over the top. But when it works with the pressure, it is almost a wall of 9 in that danger area. So if you watch the first quarter where they were chipping around us, where his heat map is where Brisbane killed us. When the pressure rose, that heat map was their danger turnover area. When Carlton being plus 30 in turnover never happens, partly because of Voss's new strategical change of really laying this trap and saying either go deep or play in your little zone and get buggered. And Carlton buggered him there. And this guy, 4 intercept marks, 6 score involvements, 4 score launches. Tom Stewart numbers they are.
Wow. So just for reference again, any number in green is good. Any number in blue is elite for that stat. Or is it the other way around?
Yeah, so blue, elite. Green, very good. Yellow, okay. Average. Orange, meh. Red, pants. Ice.
Okay. Alrighty. McGovern. Bang. 8.5. Yeah. Monster game. Yeah. He's got Jeremy vibes. Look at the haircut.
Better than Jeremy, mate.
He's got the Jeremy haircut. Love it.
I didn't know if it was Jeremy McGovern and Mitch McGovern or prime Harry Maguire.
Alrighty. Next up, let's have a look at Nick Newman. This is an interesting one. I actually felt his game came on a little later. It took some time to adjust. That's how I saw his game. It's going to be an adjustment with Williams back in there and having Boyd as well. I was kind of under the assumption that you have Williams in the side, and I didn't know if that meant you could have Boyd in the same back line, but it's dangerous when you think of all of these guys in there now, their foot skills.
Nick Newman, a more traditional role for him, but then something happened. Sam Doherty, unfortunately, left the ground. And interesting that Ash Hansen and Voss, they're a combination now. They're a combination crew. Started trialing the Sam Doherty role with 5 Carlton players, which we'll keep touching on. The first one was this guy, as you can see, very deep and then very high up the ground in the second term. Played a more negating role, but interesting enough, was Carlton's primary ball user, particularly when Carlton were under the cosh. It was interesting that Carlton trusted him over everyone. Mr. Reliability, though, Nick Newman, isn't he? He's Mr. 6.5.
Oh, he's got attributes that, I mean, Jack Silvani was a bit of a Mr. Fix-It. The versatility was there. Sam Doherty, obviously, another one. I think Newman certainly can step up in anything that we need him to do. So, he becomes a lot more important, more than what he already is now that Doc's not there. And if you remember, we actually initially brought Nick Newman to the club, if I've got my memory right, after we lost Sam Doherty to one of his ACLs.
Yeah, it was one of Sauce's dodgy deals. We're going to delist him, but we'll flick you a fiver and a handshake.
Yeah. All right. Let's have a look at how he rated for the game. 6.5. Pretty stock standard for Nui. By the way, yes, I saw a few of you in the chat. If you haven't hit the like button, I mean, listen, the content is free for you all. All we ask in return is you hit the like button and subscribe if you're not already. And that is it. That is the cost of watching this. And you don't even need to do that either, but we just would like you to. Let's move on. Who's next? Zachy Williams. Oh, wow. This guy makes my heart pump. I'm so happy to be saying his name again and reviewing a game of his again. It's a really important moment in the story of him. Let's talk about Zach Williams. How did you see his game, guys, and Pommy?
Hard to believe he's been out for 18 months, wasn't it? He came back straight away, and particularly Carlton's comeback, he was the metronome. And it was interesting that Carlton's big change 10 minutes into the second was they went from 85% win to almost 90 corridor, and it was pretty much this guy. He was driving that, and once he started getting his hands on the pill, once Carlton started attacking that, they never looked back. Zach Williams was a workhorse, and it's going to be scary because he'll only get better the more games he plays, but he was just about everywhere.
Yeah, there's a few elements to him. I mean, the journey he's been on is well documented. The way he's come back with this smile and this energy, and he looks to be really comfortable as a Carlton person, which is not something that we had been saying about him prior to his injury. And the way he plays, he's got this ability. He's not afraid. And I think a lot of the time, particularly probably first half of 2023, when we were getting stuck, not many had the guts to take, that kick that we talk about, the high degree difficulty. And there was one of them that he did. I'm going to say it was in the first quarter. He probably didn't execute the kick, to be fair, as well as what he will eventually. But the fact that he took it on and went into the corridor and just changed the dynamic of where the defensive mechanism had to be for the Lions, just give him 10 games, 10, 11 games, get him to finals. I just think he's such an important player for the mentality of, when we use the ball going forward. And it's just great to have him back. I'm not, to be honest, I thought his first quarter was a lot more than what I ever expected from him. But obviously built up emotion and excitement and, getting back into it. He definitely had a massive burst of energy for us early. So it's exciting, and it's the start of his return. And we hope that he can put together a full season, and, we'll go from there. Is he one that we can also play a little further up the ground as well?
Well, I mean, you can see there Carlton utilised him around stoppages, particularly when Doc left. So
yeah,
it could be one. I mean, we're going to come on to the other one who I think might be primed for the role that Voss did seem to like. But again, really good performance and very interesting backline numbers this week. We'll talk about it at the end when you see them all. But something very different happened with Carlton this week, which we don't often see. And there's a phrase Voss uses we did see this week.
Okay. So a 6 for Zach. As we move on to Blake Acres. Let's talk about Blake, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about... Sorry.
I liked it.
Talk to me about Blake. I thought as the game went on, he continued to get better.
Yeah, I mean, this game here was quite an interesting one because when you look at the defense didn't do much wrong. It was the midfielders that didn't do anything. But then when the game went on, it was the midfielders that wrestled it back. And two prime components of Voss's system is to give it away, team defense. Blake Acres and Ollie Hollands work incredibly hard with Matt Cottrell to be the extra defenders. And this guy was everywhere. This guy, I call him COVID because in-game, you don't see him. Then you watch the replay when you're looking for him, and he's everywhere, man. Yeah. Everywhere. His ugly face, it's down back, then up forward, then on the wing, then in the middle. And for me, a good friend of mine DM'd me today, said it's no surprise that we're good now. We've got wingers. We've been saying it for a long time. You need proper wingers. Wingers. And this guy here, he's built different. Built different.
He's a guy that you've got to. There's a few players like this in the league. You have to watch them live. You've got to be at the ground to truly appreciate when you can see the entire ground. You can see the running. So let's have a look at 25 sprint efforts, which ranks elite, and with the asterisk means he led the team in that. Is that right?
Yeah. So and he had a lot of time on the ground, so that's insane.
Wow. Do you get extra points for like sprint efforts like that? Have we correlated that into the formula?
Wingers do, yeah. Wingers, because we're looking for repeat efforts. We're looking for distance run. Blake Acres is interesting. He's not known for covering lots of the ground in Carlton's team. However, if he played for other teams, you'd see him quite high up in them time distance covered. It's an unrated thing that if we did this 4 years ago, Carlton players struggled to reach 14 kilometres per game. Carlton now usually have 7 or 8 players pushing that. In this game, we had 3 over 15. Wow. So people talk about strength and conditioning quite a bit with injuries. No one talks about the fact that these boys are actually animals, like fitness animals.
I noticed it during the game, but when I watched the replay, it just reinforced it. The Lions, those precision kicks that they were nailing in the first quarter were nowhere to be seen anywhere near to the same level in that fourth quarter. And we got better and we got fitter. Our running ability was really clear to see. And for whatever reason, Andrew Russell doesn't get kudos for that, but he definitely gets singled out when we get an injury. So anyway, Blake's score. Let's have a look. Bang. That's a big score, man. 8.5 is big.
So you see this from the defenders. So you got to remember the defenders, they suffered 63 off the top of my head inside 50s against. Let's check that. 62. I wasn't far off. 63. 62 inside 50s against. And 38 of them were rebound inside 50s. So that always goes against them. So you got to remember that will always knock one mark pretty much off them as a unit. Blake Acres was pretty much unbroken. Like, wow. The wings weren't guilty. Wings were pretty good. So he's so good. And he is Mr. Voss. Voss wants pressure, second efforts, contests. Blake Acres is that man.
Am I right in saying that we gave up a future third for him or a third round pick for him?
Acres for nothing.
Da, 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 da.
Hey, tell you what, Blake Acres third. Oh, Jesus Christ.
My goodness.
Just giving him away. Tell you what, Nick Austin's not allowed, evidently, in WA for the robberies he's committed.
Oh, yeah.
Austin's Kelly. As someone leached WA like that. But
pick 62. There you go. Pick 62 for Blake Acres. Let's talk about our captain, mate. Let's talk about our captain. I actually thought probably early on I was finding myself getting frustrated with the midfield in general because they were just getting, beaten, to be honest. But I thought Cripps' game, I mean, he's just showing those signs of maturity in the way he goes about it. A lot more consistent throughout these quarters now. How do you see his game?
People are going to overplay the Cripps goal. So I've seen a lot of people do their votes and have Cripps in it. And in my opinion, they've got Cripps in it for the wrong reasons. But I would give Cripps a 10 for this game because he had to go on Dunkley in the first. Mm-hmm. He had to go on Dunkley. He had to go on Neil in the second. And then he ended up on McCluggage in the third when they started to change it up and get a different dynamic, which we talked about in the preview, their ability to change the dynamic. And Cripps negated all of them. Mm-hmm. Cripps, literally, this is probably the first time we've seen Patrick Cripps go, fuck numbers. You guys do it. I'll take care of these melts. And as you can see, I wanted to highlight some Cripps things. 2 centre clearances. Cripps used to get 2 centre clearances when he was in the womb. Do you know what I mean? Like 7 ground ball gets, the 14 pressure acts. You see more from Cripps, usually. But this was a different Cripps. And this Cripps, he turns me on because he ain't the main man. He's more than the main man. He's the heartbeat of the team. And people are saying, oh, we're going to miss Doc for his leadership. I agree. I think, though, people are understating the fact Cripps has gone up 20% because this was Mr. Cripps. This was Daddy Cripps.
Daddy Cripps.
For a baby.
True. Yeah. I mean, look, the Lions they've had a pretty good record with the way that they play him. I think Dunkley has had a pretty good time in the way that he plays Cripps. That was fascinating to watch that rotation, though, to watch him move from their stars and help negate them and force them to give him attention. It's like the student becomes the teacher.
How good was his lead as well for his mark? He absolutely sent their defense for a fucking hot dog as well. Like that's not Cripps as well. He's not known for that, but he was a problem. And people talking about Joe Selwood, you know what? That was very Joe Selwood as he got older, from the 40-touch maestro to the man that basically is he was a bit like Nick Wishart. You know, there's that picture of Nick Wishart stood up at the front, getting everyone to sing. Cripps pretty much stood up and said, right, Chera, you do this. Right, Hollands, you do this. He was the leader. And just to digress, when I was back home, I was talking to my mate. He coached in the Premier League as just a standard coach. And he's now got his first management gig in League One. And we were chatting. And I said to him, what's the difference between elite level footballers and the dickheads you have? I was being mean to him deliberately because he's coached some good players. But he said the biggest change wasn't the skill level. He was like, the skill level's marginal. He said the big thing is communication. He was like, the footballers at the lower level aren't so naturally gifted, so they're thinking too much and they don't speak. Where he was like, in a Premier League game, these guys are saying, when this guy leans on his left foot, just so you know, he keeps going right and beating you. You need to look for that move and go straight to your right. And he was like, they coach in game. Cripps, watch him. Go back and watch every stoppage. There was a wonderful moment. He became the ruck. Ollie Hollands was on the ball. Cripps straight away has gone to him at the next stoppage and said, the ball keeps going there when Neil makes the dummy run and Dunkley comes underneath you. And Ollie Hollands ignored Neil and smashed Dunkley. That was Cripps. So that is a different dimension. And you don't get ratings for that, but I wanted to shout him out.
I like it. And an 8 for the skipper. Just quietly. Do you think on Brownlow night, I still think he can get the 3 votes? Because I think the umpires are going to be seeing all that communication on the field and hearing it. And we know what they're like with forwards. They just don't like giving forwards votes for whatever reason. I still think he's a shot. It's also because I'm tipping him for the Brownlow.
It depends. He might not find enough ball. He might not find enough ball in this new role, but what it will do is it will open the avenues to some other players, and it may win us something better than a Brownlow.
That's true. Flag. That's all that matters. And
I think that's all Cripper gives a shit about now.
Yeah. All right. Next up, let's have a look. Ollie Hollands.
Look at that heat map. Oh!
Wow.
Oh, you filthy man. Absolute filth. Just so you know, their heat maps, if you go and check Brisbane's ball use, there's red dots, and their red dots are directly correlating to their beginning of their scoring chains. Now, You've got the front left half forward pocket, their half back right flank, right? 9 score launches generated from then on overlaps against Carlton. Ollie Hollands was deployed in the danger zones, and there's a reason. Look at them pressure acts.
Wow.
This guy
didn't realize he had 8 tackles. I completely missed that.
So the reason Carlton won this game, I can give you it in a sentence, right? 190 pressure acts for the 12th game running over 2 quarters. That is impossible. No one can play in that. On average in the AFL, when pressure ratings go 190, the output of a team decreases by up to 30%, right? So when Carlton do that, I don't care if you're the Monstars or the Harlem Globetrotters. You can't play sport. Ollie Hollands is the captain of that department. He chases them down. And for those at home, pressure rating is basically the amount of distance covered towards a potential kicker, the pressure acts, the 1% is the tackles, and the vicinity of which players close down. That means it's his job is just to get in the way, be in the peripheral vision. And look at that, 15 Ks ran, and it's not even the most from the Carlton players.
It's crazy, man.
And you see here, look, selfless roll, 123 meters gain. Doesn't see a lot of it. His role's so much more important than that.
Well, I mean, if you look at this right now and you look at the two things, I mean, I saw the video earlier today, and we've heard pressure and contest drilled into everyone for the better part of a year and a half, I would say almost now. The three stats up on screen right now are literally correlated to pressure and contest. And that's at the end of the day. I mean, we can do our ratings and our algorithms, but what matters is what the coaches are asking from the players. And I think this was a game where he certainly lived up to that.
Mongrel Punt do an absolute great article, their Wingman of the Year. Mongrel Punt are probably second behind me and Lekdog for falling in love with a winger.
Mm-hmm.
What people forget is they talk about Eamon at Ed Langdon. They're very aggressive, attacking wingmen. But the top teams now are playing off halfback, so the wingmen are becoming a defensive asset as well, which allows the half forwards to come into the game and the halfbacks. Bold call. I would say if Ollie Hollands requested a trade, heaven forbid, because I would tell him off myself. So he'd never leave because he'd have me on his case. But 17 teams would be coming in for him. 17 teams. So 6 and 6.5, really good ratings. Just think about role players. That's where you want your role players. When we used to be shit, when we first started doing this, there was a lot of 9s and a lot of 4s, right, with the rating system. Just watch at the end. You'll be blown away.
Okay. No, I'll take your word for it. I like it. Let's move on to Cunners. Love this guy. I like what he does, and I like his ability in traffic. Very few players are as clean as him in traffic.
Magic moments. That's what David Cunningham is. That's a secret. We are working on a David Cunningham song around that tune.
David.
So we're just trying to get what we're never forgetting in the little thing to try and get it. But David Cunningham, I want to shout David Cunningham out because most people know him as the finisher, the sexy guy. This week, we saw something happen to him. The boy knows how to tackle. Look at that, 5 tackles, right? And Ben Leonard, he got 2 holding the balls in the last 5 minutes.
Wow, true. He did.
We saw this, and if you go back, I think it's round 20. This was my pissed off with Cunners moment. Needs to bring something when he's not kicking goals.
Mm-hmm.
Suddenly, he did. Suddenly, he made that half-back flank for them was a nightmare because in that 4th quarter, they thought, right, okay, this is what we did with Carlton. Give them room on the wing, let them kick it in. They commit a big forward press. We go over the back of them. Suddenly, Cunningham, Fogarty, Akers, they had to hit brick walls. They suddenly were like, oh shit, how do we get out of this? Great coaching, but tell you what, Voss needs a shout out. David Cunningham is buying into defense. Like, I saw this kid as a junior. He thought a tackle was something you do when you go with Rex on a fishing boat. I mean, this guy's laying tackles, brother. Like, that's Voss.
Yeah, that is the buy-in. Yeah, I mean, it's a well-rounded game. He had a little bit of everything in this game. Really happy to see it.
I hate to be the guy that takes sexy out of Carlton, but I am all for this boring Carlton.
Yeah, man.
Just give me tackles and just be miserable. and fucking win. I love it.
A 6.5. I think this is a great example. Like, we're not getting carried away. There's an equilibrium about this rating show right now, because I feel like Ollie would have gotten an 8 for sure if it was just the feel and the heart. I think Cunners might have as well.
Can I say, this show should be called Let's Talk About 6.
Baby, let's talk about you and me.
Let's talk
a
about
6.5
6.
For Cunners. All right, next up, Matty Cottrell.
Look at the heat map.
What is going on here? How does this happen?
Well, what he's tried to do is he's like, look, I'm a redhead. Let's turn the field red.
He's burnt the Gabba. He literally lit a match on the Gabba.
So this gentleman here, right, and on the watch along, I'm not going to single you out because everyone's entitled to their opinion and it turns me on, but there was 2 guys in the back half of the ground that were giving us a bit of a fucking nightmare. One of them was Kitty Coleman. Now, unfortunately, he did an ACL. God bless him. But he was a bit of a nightmare. And then the other was Darcy Wilmot. And the poor gentleman that had to follow these 2 freaks out the back half of the ground was this guy. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Every time he did, he was chasing them out. I would say Kitty Coleman might be the hardest player to play in the league because he is a genius with his running. This guy here is, look at that, 15.2 kilometers. And his actual highest recorded speed was 11 minutes into the 4th. Guys, like, honestly, like, you wouldn't have picked on him at school because if he's got that engine and he can still get quicker, you just leave him to it. But more importantly, wasn't the tackle guy, he was the annoyance guy, and he did an incredible job of it. Particularly, he is probably the number 1 suspect, him and Fogarty, for stopping the goals on the back half of the ground because he made it hard. Those who watch the watch along, how many times did I say, take the short option, don't let it go short? Him and Fogarty were Mr. Let's stop short kicks. Let's stop them. So, great performance from Cotters. Doesn't get the love it deserves, that game. But
no, it doesn't. Kicked a very important goal as well with a great celebration. There's the footage of it when he pauses with Charlie and then starts running backwards.
Yeah, I liked it when he refused to touch Charlie.
Yeah. A 6.5 for Matty Cottrell. As we move on to... I haven't seen these scores, by the way, so I don't know what folks have scored. Wow. Where do you start? Where do you start with Fogarty, mate?
Probably the second best Geelong export since Billy Smets, eh?
Yeah, we finally got a good one from Geelong.
I mean,
that was so man. It was so impressive what he did, and what made it more impressive for me was the way he was tackling when it wasn't going our way.
Mate, when Carlton were playing Baba, he gets more angry. I mean, the song writes itself, doesn't it? 5'9", hard as fuck. Like he's like a coffin nail. Do you know what I mean as well? And yeah, some of the hits. He hit Jack Payne. He hit Oscar McInerney.
Yes.
This guy has no respect and no knowledge. He is 5'9". Like, someone needs to sit him down and say, bro, you're not the biggest dog. And he doesn't care. I'd imagine going out for a beer with Fogarty is a nightmare because this guy can probably kill anyone. Yeah. He is so... Look at that. 9 tackles. Best in the team. 5 tackles inside 50. Best in the team. 3 of them tackles inside 50 created spillages, which became goals. 2 holding the balls. 4 forward 50 hard ground ball gets. And he kicked a goal.
Full kudos.
And what number does he wear?
He wears number 8.
I was a forward and wore number 8 as well.
All right.
Okay.
Lucky Fogarty, Pomety.
He's welcome for a mid-warm beer in the north of England with me whenever he wants.
So happy for him. Interesting one. If you go back, when did I speak to George Hewett? Last week? Yeah, last week. Fogarty was the one that he singled out as the player who he thought would have a great season. So a very much a watch this space with Fogarty. And anytime we get sucked into who we don't have, start remembering who we do have. And I think this is a guy that we do have that can play an important role.
Telling you now, this game would not be won without Cottrell and Fogarty, right? Honestly, like these two allowed pressure on the exit for them, which allowed us to get repeat inside 50s, which then allowed Curnow and McKay to take the game away. So without these two, Charlie Curnow's just a very pretty-headed guy with sexy biceps, and Harry's just a big, tall beast, right? That is all they are without these two. Incredible performance, and honestly, I love Fogarty. Fogarty's becoming my fave, man. He's an animal, bro.
He's an animal. He's an animal. Brings that heat, stays in the team. Pretty simple, I would have thought.
Oh, mate. Yeah,
he's also clean. He's also clean at ground level.
And he kicks a goal, which is like, tell you, he's dangerous, man. I can't wait to see him on someone like Sinclair.
Oh, yeah.
Because he tackles to hurt them as well. That's what I like about him. He ain't there to have a beer at the end of the game. He's there to ruin lives. Look at his smile as well. He looks so cute.
All right. Time to talk about Oratio Fantasia. It's Fantasia, by the way. That's the correct pronunciation.
Well, Fantasia.
Fantasia.
Mate, Fantasia loves a goal assist, as you can see. And another one who joined there, who replaces Doc. Role. A really solid all-round game. Now, when you watch Orazio, usually, you think forward pocket snags. Look at him. Suddenly, Voss has opened up something else, has opened another row and said, right, okay, show me something around the ball. And he was very solid. And his first goal assist was the sex, wasn't it?
Yes. There were two moments I want to bring up with him, which I thought were profound for various reasons. The first one, I forget which quarter it was, but he was chasing down somebody at full speed, and it was one of those classic pieces of vision where you're like, oh my God, for someone who's got hamstring issues, you're like, oh my God, be careful. Oh my God, like he's going at full pace. And he got through. And I'm curious, I'd love to know for him, was that moment something that he thinks about now after the game with confidence, knowing he can make that chase at full pace during the heat of the battle and not pull up sore afterwards? I wonder if that does anything for him, or if it was just one of many, pressure moments that he applied. And then the second one was at the end of the game. There was a post-game interview. He was there with, who was it? There were two of them. It was Orazio and it was somebody else. And he spoke second, and he spoke about Vossi and how grateful he is to have, be playing for him. And do you remember a few years ago when Vossi first came to the club and we were talking about, like, I wonder who Vossi will bring with him, whether it be a player or a coach. We've got a few coaches into the club, via Vossi. I think, Aaron Greaves is one. I think Ebert's another one that you could probably attribute to that relationship. But in terms of a player on field that has come directly because of Michael Voss, it's this guy. And give him a couple games, because he's got the nous. He's going to rip a game apart second half of the season. You can just see it. He's got the thing. He's got it.
I was just thinking him and Motlop together.
It was Zach Williams. Yes, thank you. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
But fair play to Voss. We've never seen him play this role before. It was a different role. Did really well.
Oh, bit of inside information. I've been informed by my Essendon friends he loves playing Richmond. Oh, mate, his first goal for the club is going to... Wow. I can't believe we're talking about him like this. It's a really good story. It's a really, really good story. Touch wood.
He looks like he's got a decent celebration in him as well. Because I was disappointed first half. They were some of the worst celebrations I've ever seen. Thank God Charlie popped a bicep, because jeeps, man.
Yeah.
Club needs to get better at that. Poor.
Yeah. And congratulations to him on his 100th game. Gee, it's a
Congrats.
solid first up game. My goodness.
Congrats.
Congratio, Fantasia. Sorry.
Oh dear, we're back with shit.
Oh wow, I've blown a gasket. It's only opening round.
There we are,
all right, let's go. Harry McKay. Let's talk about Harry, mate. Shh.
Can we just look at one stat before we start? Yeah. Look at the KM's round.
Wow, he ran 14.2 kilometers.
Look at it. That's third most on the ground. And he was
and we're talking about set shots under fatigue and pressure, especially late. And he ran 14 kilometers. So what? He's run 14 kilometers before that last kick.
Yeah, and just think about it as well. I mean, you've got to look at it this way. He's been paid $7 million though.
Oh, yeah. So we expected to do it. Name me one other forward that has this stat line.
None. None. I mean, wow, he's been paid $7 million to do freakish things.
Wow. So he led the team in score involvements as well?
He did indeed. He contested marks for, which 3 of them were 1-on-1. Well, we say 1-on-1. Unfortunately, there isn't a stat for 5-on-1, but technically he won them. The goals were good. Interesting, Harry. Do you know what I mean? He went, his goal kicking is much the debate, isn't it? It's always going to be a debate, I think, with Harry, and I think Harry's just got to accept it. But he answered them on the field. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is what he has to do. Just keep doing what you're doing. And that, in my opinion, that is Harry's best game for Carlton. But under that pressure, you might disagree and say, oh, but Pom. But that he equaled his best shooting at goal, 60%, right? Which is where all the top players are. And people are talking about Harry again in the press. It's still not good enough. Like, do the maths. He's on for 100+ season if he keeps doing this.
Yeah.
And playing in the ruck, and playing down the back, and running 14 kilometers. Like, and kicking the goal to win it. Jesus.
Yeah. He looks to have added a layer of strength to his game. He worked on the speed a few years ago. He identified that. And case in point, the very last play of the game, high IQ play, I believe Akers or Cottrell cleared the ball and it was going out, and it was probably going to be paid as insufficient intent had Harry not sprinted and got a hand to it and sort of fumbled it over the line. A very high IQ play that didn't come up on the stat sheet, won't come up on the stat sheet. But yeah, he was bonkers on this game. And you can tell he's gone to work.
There was a host of stats. His one-on-ones were elite. Host of stats. Matt Gondolfo, quite often you comment genius stuff. Mate, Darwin Núñez. He's Darwin Núñez, right? Every other football club in the Premier League would say, oh, Darwin Núñez is shit. Every football club in England would want him because he instantly makes their forward line better. Mm-hmm. My knock on Charlie, great conversation. Me and Paolo had this on SEN about Darwin Núñez and Hollands. But you could use this with Harry and Charlie. Charlie at 18 AFL clubs, only some he'd make better because he still needs that ball coming into him. Harry makes every side better. Harry at North, at West Coast Eagles, would make them better. Charlie requires a little bit coming to him. Doesn't mean Harry's better. It just means that he is a team player where Charlie is the team difference. Absolutely insane. Harry, just put the result up.
Well, yeah.
Put the result up.
Yeah, let's go, baby.
10 corns. Fuck you. 10. 10.
It's, yeah. What do you say? What do you say?
Weakness. No, like, honestly, you've got to put it in this perspective. Do you ever see Jeremy Cameron in the ruck? Jeremy Cameron thinks a ruck is a form of ice cream. Right? You know what I mean? Like, this guy was in the ruck. This guy played on the wing. This guy went high up the ground. 2 of Charlie's goals were Harry. Go back and watch them. He ragdolled. Like, he started calling Harris Andrews the recycling bin because he was just throwing him around.
Wow,
Like,
I love it.
Give him some love.
I love it. Wow, he's in for the breakout year. Harry McKay. Good on him.
Harry.
No, I love it, man. No, I love to see him getting some love. Because we lost it. There was a frustration with him. He spoke about it. I did play that 7-minute clip of the podcast on last week's Monday show. But if you watch the whole thing, it makes sense. He's like, obviously he wasn't kicking the ball very well. You have 6 months in the off season to work on something. And at the end of the day, the kicking wasn't as much of an issue per se until last year. And then he's had the whole off season to work on it. I actually can't believe anyone out there would think to make a comment about Harry to suggest that he wouldn't be working on it.
You know what's interesting? We've only one game in, but it's interesting with Harry because not much has changed from last year. The two big changes for Harry are one, his work rate off the ball, as the kilometres show, and the goal kicking accuracy. But people are forgetting this time last year, he is the most consistent forward we have year on year. His stats are actually boring. It's just the goal kicking accuracy. Now he's added a layer of the work rate. Be careful, because I'll tell you what, when Harry goes pop, and you saw this game, I'm going to show the next guy who we're in love with.
Yeah. Let's talk about Charlie. Lee. Let's talk about
Harry doing what he did allowed Charlie to do what he does well. So we talked about Nunez and Haaland. Harry's Nunez. This guy's Haaland. This guy needs 5 minutes and it is game over. Forget about it. Thanks for coming. Charlie Curnow won Carlton the game, right? Momentum is overused, and I'm not a big buyer and a believer in momentum because I think people use momentum the wrong way and they go, oh, the umpires ruin momentum. For me, if you're talking about momentum in that way, you're using an excuse. Momentum for me is team manufactured, and that's what Carlton did. Charlie Curnow's 2 goals in a blink of an eye won that game, right? And that was because of Harry's work. That was a team effort, but his ability to make something happen. That second goal was out of nothing. And look at it, 100% goal kicking accuracy, 4 goals, and 3 goals. Yeah, it was 4 goals, wasn't it? 4 goals, 3 contested marks, 6 score involvements, and game over.
And I mean, look, the Lions are elite defensively, particularly at the Gabba. And the thing that Charlie does a lot, does a few things. He brings it's like a spiritual awakening for the team. He creates something magical happens. It's intangible. We cheer louder when he does something. He's got an effect on the crowd. He's got an effect on his teammates. He's infectious. And I thought Payne was defending him relatively well for the majority of the game, but in 5 minutes he just flipped it on his head. And he has this innate ability to get inside the heads of defenders, and it shows. And it's marvelous to watch as a fan. And we're lucky that we have him in our side,
Energies are massive, and his energy and Charlie's and Harry's energy complement each other. And tell you what, that 3 minutes, that was filth, wasn't it? That 3 minutes he had, filth.
Complete filth. It is. Well done. Well said, says. It's something else. The energy he brings when he kicks goals. All right, let's move on. Who's next? We've got TDK. Really interested to hear how we talk about TDK because I really enjoyed what I saw from him from a strength standpoint.
It's a tough one because, let's be honest. Let's be having it right. Is it TDK's best game? No. Do we care? Not really, no. Because Oscar McInerney is a very tricky customer, a very elusive player is Oscar McInerney. But then you look at what Oscar McInerney did. Oscar McInerney didn't exactly have a blinder as well. So at the end of the day, you've got to break even. Like it was kind of a break-even point. Big thing with him, though, that we're looking at specifically is you can see Carlton have got a plan, and it didn't quite work. When he did win his hit-outs, only 16% of them were to advantage. I do think that's part manufactured by Voss because Carlton do seem to shark opposition better than we've ever done when Pitternet wins 90. But looking at around the ground and what the ruckman does, it wasn't great from TDK this week. But what I will say is he did negate Oscar's influence around the ground. And a lot of them failed marks were when he was one-on-one with Oscar McInerney, which at the end of the day, it's all we can ask from the young fella.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was a good battle. I mean, Oscar McInerney really hurt us in that prelim. I watched that live and close. But Tom's ability to get his hand to the ball in the ruck and his ability late to win certain contests and just the way he competed, I liked it. Good signs. Obviously, he didn't really come up on the stat sheet, but I did think he was a little underrated in the way he went about it. But let's have a look. He got a 5. So
you got to remember, it's a ruck stat. So with the ruck stats, we don't see so much how the opposition did. Both of the ruckmen scored really well. Oscar McInerney scored a 5 too. So both of them weren't really kicking butt. But that's all you want. If you're breaking even, you're breaking even.
I can honestly see why we play Pitto, because if you combine Pitto and TDK's heat map for any given game, this is TDK's work around the ground. And you just look at this center circle here, and that'll be red for Pitto. That's all you'll get for Pitto. And Pitto's hit outs to advantage are obviously a lot higher as well. Anyway, we move on. Chera. I thought he also started slow, but by the end of the game, I thought he really lifted. And obviously, look at that. Defensive half pressure acts 21 led the team in pressure acts overall with 30 and 7 clearances. Wow.
Ground ball gets, clearances. For a man that when he signed for Carlton, everyone talked about his offensive class. I have not seen a midfielder improve their defensive game. And it's quite interesting. I was listening to something from Fremantle when he signed for Carlton, and they were talking about that they were really confident because they had some guys that really pride themselves on their defensive game. And I'm like, kind of laughed to myself because I'm like, well, Chera's added that. Like, Chera's got that well-roundedness. And again, it was a fantastic performance by Chera, and Chera's ability to replace Cripps and allow Cripps to now lead and be in impact areas shouldn't be understated. And it is actually scary when you see Hewett and Chera take the piss. You've got a guy to add to that.
Wow.
Walsh. And that's scary.
That is scary. Well, I think Chera's one of the better two-way running midfielders in the league. I genuinely believe that. His willingness and his ability to run both ways and impact both ways is at a really high level.
At times, he wore Lockie Neal like a glove. When Lockie Neal burst through, when Dunkley burst through, Chera was there. Great work from Chesney.
Wow. And a 9. A 9
we
for
love
Chera.
Ches.
We love a bit of Chesney. All right. Oh. Wow. This will be the last time we speak about Sam Doherty.
Till next year.
2024. Yeah, until next year. For 2024. It's tough. Footy's tough.
Stupid sport, innit?
Yeah.
Ridiculous game.
Yeah, it's tough.
But the way I look at it, and I'm sure the way that he'd want to...
Of course.
He'd want to look at it is it's an opportunity for one of the young bucks and one of the next guys to step up.
Yeah.
And you know what? Is there anyone better to be the mentor behind closed doors to let that kid take that job? It was a tough day at the office for him before he got injured. He was willing. Unfortunately, he went off before Carlton started to take the piss. So it would have been really interesting to see what the stats were if we could see it at the end of the game. Interesting for Doc, though. I did put it on there. People always criticise his kicking. He actually was hitting targets for banter at one stage. So for a guy that played less than 50%, anything above 4.5 is good because you're judged on 100% of the game.
The reality of the situation is this: the only thing that we can prepare for in a season is, twists and turns and heartbreaks, and this is just one of them. It sucks that it's him. We know what he's been through, but some things are bigger than football, and I think his purpose is greater than what he's going to be doing on field. He's been through so much, and I really do believe that there's something to be said for those who go through seemingly more of these types of heartbreaks. And I think, I don't know, the world is aligning him into some other purpose. I don't know what it is, but it's so important that we don't get too, you're in a war. This is a marathon of a season. You're literally in a war. Soldier goes down, you got to move on. And that's the way he would want it as well. So send some love to Doc. We'll send all the love to Doc. Hopefully we get to chat to him and hear from him soon once it all settles down, and he'll be back. He'll be back.
I'll tell you what, and if it's Jackie C, whoever it is, they're going to get the best mentor for the remainder of the season, because Doc's the type of person that'll want to make them better than him.
Correct. Nah, spot on. All right, let's move on to Matt Kennedy. The stat's not here. How many hitouts did he have? Because I feel like he definitely had a couple.
Matt Kennedy, 1.
He had the 1. Okay, I definitely saw 1. I could have sworn I saw a few more. Talk to me about him.
McInerney as well, which is bizarre.
Yeah. A very peculiar game. Started forward. I thought he started showing some signs once he was back in the midfield. How did you view his game?
Yeah, I mean, he's basically the JSOS reincarnated.
Mm-hmm.
Like Voss is deploying him everywhere. Another guy that got a bit of Doc minutes. It's going to be interesting how that happens, but he took his goal well, worked hard around the ground, and wonderful thing about Kennedy, very like JSOS, just bang average everywhere he is, and it's a really offensive term in Australian sport, but to be average at elite level sport in every department is better than being 10 out of 10 in one department. So really, really, really strong outing in his return to the team. So it's going to be interesting how he goes for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely a watch this space. George, mate. This guy, man. This guy. I felt like I had to give player of the game to Harry, and for the right reason, obviously. And, you give doing a bit to Lockie Fogarty, show him some love. But I thought George was just as instrumental in the win as anybody else on the field.
Massive. So you look at Georgie Hewett, what he's about and how hard he works. And what I said about Kennedy's bang average everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
George Hewett's more filth. He's very good everywhere. And that's the level. That's the level we're talking. Most underrated footballer for me, George Hewett in the preseason games, head and shoulders above the rest, right? Mm-hmm. Head and shoulders above the rest. And again, this guy, everywhere he was deployed, was really solid. It's going to be a really exciting combination to see a free Cripps being almost like a utility around the forward and midfield, and Hewett running that midfield, because this is Hewett's midfield. Don't let anyone confuse you. Hewett is the workhorse now. I can't wait to see that. I am so excited about seeing Sam Walsh, Chera, and Hewett in the middle. That combination, because that turns me on. That turns me on, because that could take the piss.
Wow, an 8.5.
I wanted to give him a 10 for punching Lockie Neal in the neck.
Oh, yeah, $2,500 one of these little cheeky ones, just like off the shoulder into the chin. Love that.
Timed it perfect as well. Did the old bounce up, so he got the fine. Very smart,
very clever. Very clever. I didn't know he had that kind of spice as a part of his game. Can
I just say, the way he talked to you and the fact he gave you 8 words in a 20-minute interview, always be wary of a man that can look at you just stone cold half. He was smiling and not smiling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, scary man. Scary man. I tell you, Pom's not scared of any mortal I reckon George Hewett's a psycho. Like I'm telling you now. Reckon when he flips, it's game over. He strikes me as one of them kind of guys that you square up to in a bar. He looks you up and down and says, "You're not worth it." Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they're scary. Well played, George. I love it, bro.
Very, very good game. Very good game. We're going to move on to Jordan Boyd. Another one. Wow. Shit. I said it earlier in the show. I definitely am someone that fell into that category of people who has thought, don't know if you can play Zach Williams, Adam Saad, Nick Newman, Jordan Boyd, Kemp in the same D50. I don't know if that works. Wow, that's gonna be a point of difference for us if we keep developing that.
I agree with Chris Slang. How do you not love this guy? I mean, the headband, the nails. There's, you know, when I was a kid, he would have been my favorite player because it's just something about Jords, isn't there? Something. He's cool, man. Like, I want to be his mate. I want to be his mate. Like, he looks cool. Cool. Talk about his game, right? Now, people have got to get through to their head. Carlton are never going to be a sexy side. We've got to underline that. We ain't going to play cute football.
Mm-hmm.
What we're going to play is we're going to play ruthless, efficient football. And one of the few guys that could maybe play sexy football is a man that goes 93% by foot. Like,
unbelievable.
I didn't know if it was Jordan Boyd or the American Sniper at times. Like, I mean, but interesting, you talk about who replaced his doc. The man that got the role for the longest, you're looking at him playing very high up the ground, out the back. We talked last year about the quarterback role, Vossi Lobbs. Jordan Boyd had that role, and some of the ways Jordan Boyd would peel off, go in and under, and hit a target, spread the play. It was very... Everyone knows my favorite footballer of all time is Sam Mitchell. Sam Mitchell reincarnated. That was Sam Mitchell shit. Out the back of the stoppage. You have the ball. You have the ball. I love this kid.
He's got the confidence about him as well, which I like to see from him.
It's going to be interesting what they do.
7.5. Wow. Next up is...
Oh, Carroll, I was but a fool.
One Jackie Carroll. There's only one Jackie Carroll. Jackie.
I think we've missed Owies out, but I don't know if you've just done...
No, because there's no heat map for him. So that's why I skipped. I thought this was the Owies.
There's only one Jackie Carroll.
One Jackie Carroll.
Oh, Pom's melt. But yeah, we'll talk about Jackie Carroll. So came on late, later in the game, and Carlton have got an uncanny, almost filthy ability that if you come on late in the game, you take the piss, don't you? I mean, we haven't talked about him for a long time. I miss him. Paddy Dow. The new Paddy Dow. You know what I mean? The new Dow. But no, tell you what, the energy, Jack, we talked pre-game, me and Lek did that live, and we said that this was an opportunity for someone to come on and own a job.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it would be so quick, but he came on, and you know what? This is what you want. He attacked the ball hard. He made himself available, and I joke about Paddy Dow. This kid's built different compared to Dow. He was there defensively, offensively. He was working his ass off on the wing, and there's a big reason that we couldn't get Dow working. Jackie Carroll is a dream, and I really enjoyed what he brought to the table. I thought it was an incredibly tough time to come when Carlton are getting battered, but he managed to do it. So fair play to him, because you know what? That's not a good time to come in.
Yeah. I love the faith to select him. I love how hard it would have been to come on in that game, particularly in the context of what was happening in the game. And for his ability to stay warm, stay ready, mentally sharp, to take his moment. And all of a sudden, I mean, we'll see what they do with selection. But I mean, from my lens, and I'm sure all of us are thinking the same thing, like he's going to be elevated to starting next week. We'll see how that one plays out. But that was
in your mind, he played half a game.
Yeah.
And got 5.
Yeah.
Highest rated ground on the 3rd. Let's see what.
Oh, there's no way he beats him. Oh, wow. Wow. Such was the impact, hey?
That 3rd. So AFL has an AFL rating system. We're totally different to that, but we do look for the same things. We just don't try and get really excited about midfielders like that. But that 3rd quarter was as close to a 10. So that 3rd quarter, you do that 4th, we're talking Chera numbers. Do you know what I mean? Like that's impressive, particularly his time on the ground. He was everywhere, which is really hard. That's what this rating system loves as well. If you do multiple roles, splits your system down into the different roles you did, so you don't get punished. AFL rating system would punish him because it's looking for inside mid numbers, even though he danced in the wing. So I put Owies up as well.
Okay. No, look, with Jack, it's also a testament to there's always been a plan with Jack Carroll. Got him obviously when he was very young, underage. He's gone through this development program. He's learning off Cripps every off season. I hope this is the start of his I don't know if breakout year is the word, but the year where he starts putting himself on the map. I hope that was a sign of things to come for him.
People forget about him, right? People forget that he was underage. So there was actually clubs asking him to not do it because they have an option. He could have gone in the next year's draft. So I remember when we did the draft preview for him, I said that he was top 10 the year after. So you've got to count him as a year younger than he is, than his draft class. Carlton probably don't get the credit that they deserve, but there's other clubs that have hidden players that are starting to burst out now for 2 years in VFL. Carlton have done that. So watching a lot of junior football, this kid can play. And I think our similarities was Jackson McRae from memory, because you all made me give one. Very in and outside player. There's something about him, and he's now going to get an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, the final player is Matt Owies. So this is his heat map. I do wonder how fit he was. He had only just come off the hamstring injury, if memory serves me right, and only had just become available after the latest injury report. He definitely looked like he'd be better for the run. How do you look at his game?
It's a tough one, this, because I love Owies. I am part of the Owies fan club. The one thing I'll say about Owies is I'd say he's AFL average. And I'd say in an ideal world, he isn't your best small forward, which statistically last year he was. This year here, it kind of made me happy a little bit to see we have got that higher skill level. Maybe a bit early, but unfortunately, I mean, I was probably somewhere in line to play small forward this week. It was that bad. So it wasn't the same Owies. There was something quite missing. We know he's an energetic, sparky player. He didn't really get involved. The tackles weren't there, which is something wonderful about Owies. Don't kick goals. He gives you pressure. That wasn't there. He didn't give us goals. He didn't give us pressure. It was an almost game. It was like an almost game. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We won.
That's right. He'll be a lot better for the run. And also congratulations to him for his 50th game. He was the very first player interview on this channel. Who would have thought that he would outlive Paddy Dow on this channel? Who would have thought? It's a phenomenal story when you zoom out from the game and you look at what he's been able to do.
Mate, spot on. This is a testament to, just trying, developing, working hard. He maximized. I'm the first to say, he's ain't the best small forward in the league. But I'll tell you what, what he lacks in skill, he has an abundance for effort. And that's all you can ask for. Do you know what I mean? You can't beat your dog because it's a Dalmatian and doesn't run like a greyhound. Sometimes you've got to own what you are.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
All right. Time to look at the entire team. It's the final slide of the night.
Look at this.
Oh, wow. All right.
Oh, fucking hell, we're good.
All right, run me through. Wow, this is fascinating.
So
do you guys in the chat understand? Sorry, I need to say this. In the chat, do you understand how tedious this is to create? This is Pommy. This is unbelievable, bro. At the bare minimum, if there's 300 of you on this thing watching this show right now, the bare minimum, hit the subscribe and or the like button and or share the damn thing, because you're not getting free content like this anywhere else in the world.
And at the very least, one of you should get me tattooed on you. But let's take you through this. When we first did this, what we tried to do is create a model that stops people looking for individual performance, because that's pants. You ain't going to win it. And the big thing we said, if all the team gets sixes in the AFL, and we said this across the board, and Richmond was the model we talked about last year, their uncanny ability to have 18 guys all going at that 6 AFL average for the position minimum, with 3 or 4 guys being over that wins you flags. So my personal philosophy is it ain't your stars that win your games. It's the guys that bring the boots to training win your games. And most professionals say that. It's your role players. And look at that there. That is like, that turns me on. The amount of 6.5s and 6s, and then the key battlegrounds where we're starting to see the blues and greens. Like, Carlton do that 28 times. Enjoy 17.
Wow. It's a real testament of, and I mean, I think Vossi has touched on it as well. I think on 360, it's raising the floor. I mean, our top end talent has never really been in question over the last 5-6 years. It hasn't really been in question about our ability to have top end talent. So when I look at, these Cheras, Charlie, Harry, Cripps, these types, like that's they've always been there. But it's the floor that's going to raise the consistency across the year. And if these guys have their roles defined and they know how to execute it without too much confusion, lights out. And that's why it's important to see a stable club with a coach now entering his 3rd season and a game plan that's now in its 3rd, iteration with the same group.
Mate, he's found it. And do you know what I mean? Like, there's reasons for like all the bad scores as well. Owies, do you know what I mean? He only turned up to training 5 minutes before his first game for the football club this year. So do you know what I mean? Like, Dot played the only quarters when Carlton were getting peppered, and then unfortunately did his ACL. Do you know what I mean? So he didn't get a chance to partake. TDK, you look at his numbers. Like, I know a lot of people are disagreeing with me in the chat, right? But like, look at his numbers, man. 14% hit outs won. Do you know what I mean? 2 clearances, no tackles, 2 marks. Like, we're not talking like without being negative. Ruckman average, that's poor, really poor. But then you've got to get the context. McInerney scored a 5 as well. So you don't get bonus points for your opposite man being pants as well. That's where you look at the context of, if McInerney had a 10, we might be having a different conversation. So there it is. Do you know what I mean? And that is, though, this whole makeup, that's what wins you a flag. I want everyone to get in the head. We don't want an elite game. We want a hard game. We want a hard game to beat. And that is it.
Wow. Wow. What a show. That's brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
I can't stop looking at that.
Just like keep that in your head and think, this is what we want every week. Every week I want, and this is how I do my previews. 5 games. I always pick 5 players that I think key battlegrounds. You've got to play well to win us the game. And when we did our preview, we talked the forwards had to kick ass and put numbers on the board. So the backline that was slightly weakened couldn't do it. Mitch McGovern had to work overtime. That's what we were saying. Mitch McGovern had to go overtime, getting the intercept marks, taking the piss, hitting them on the counter. And our wings and midfielders had to gain ascendancy. And look where the elites are. Like, it's the key battlegrounds. Mitch McGovern taking their entries, using it against them. Blake Acres being the exit ball. Adam Chera working his arse off to negate their midfield. McKay and Curnow taking the piss. When that happens, that makeup beats 17 out of the 18 teams because you can't beat yourself. Except Carlton can beat themselves.
Except Carlton can beat themselves.
Oh, I didn't do a Michael Voss vote, chat. You asked for that last year.
Are we going to be doing a Michael Voss vote? Is that on the cards?
Oh, I'm such a bad man. I should have done.
That's right, mate.
Yeah.
How do you do a Michael Voss vote?
Well, we just talk about what he didn't get. I mean, I've got to say, he changed it up, didn't he? So probably a 10.
Mm-hmm.
But the doubters in the chat will say that was Hansen.
All right.
So we'll give him a 7. Keep him honest.
All right. We have started off season 2024 hot. It's been a great show. Also, pinned to the chat. For those of you going to the G Thursday night, get your pins. Get your pins. Put them on your scarf. Hang on a minute. There you go. Link in the chat. Get your BA pins. Would love to see them on as many scarves this year. If you haven't got one, lock it in. $17. And if you are new to the concept, they are $17 until we win it. And then they go to $18 and so on and so forth. So, Pommy, thank you once again. Make sure you're all subscribed to Pommy in Oz on YouTube. And we kind of have to move on pretty quickly. We're going to be thinking about Richmond pretty quickly. We've got a Thursday night game. So, in the famous words of Paul Sebastiani, we move. Good night, everyone. Go Blues.